Wisdom Part 2. Wisdom is knowing what to do, when to do it, where to do it, how to do it, and who to do it with. Wisdom is God's will. So that would have been what the first video would be about. But this one's about why we desire wisdom. Why do we desire somebody to tell us what to do, where to do it, how to do it, when to do it, and who to do it with? I can simply say God is all knowing and God is all loving. And He knows the thoughts He thinks towards us. Thoughts of good, not evil, to give us expected end. His desire is that no one should perish. But I know that Proverbs gives a beautiful description over why we should desire wisdom. This series has actually been helping me a lot. I hope it's beneficial to you as well. In Proverbs 1, wisdom is depicted as a woman yelling in front of the city gate, in front of a crowd, crying out, yelling out, "Aren't y'all tired of being foolish?" But basically it's insinuating that God wants to give us wisdom freely, but we just choose to do things our own way until it becomes problematic. In Proverbs 1 verse 26, it says, "I also will laugh at your calamity, this being wisdom. I will mock you when fear cometh. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you." What we see there is, the Bible's honest. It didn't say if. It says when we do things our own way, those things will come about. I can tell you from experience, if you do things the way you want to do it outside of God, those consequences will come. But if you reverse it, so if those consequences came because of people had a lack of wisdom, that then insinuates that if we get wisdom from God, we can avoid distress, we can avoid anguish, we can avoid destruction, we can avoid desolation, we can avoid calamity, we can avoid fear if we can just get wisdom from God. Continue on in Proverbs 1. It said, if we get wisdom from God, we can dwell safely and be quiet from fear of evil, which would have been enough. But in Proverbs 3, he goes more in depth. Solomon goes more in depth about why we should desire wisdom. It says, happy is the man who findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding. Happy there can be translated to either happy or blessed. It says that wisdom is better than silver. Wisdom is better than gold. Wisdom is better than rubies. It even goes to say wisdom is better than anything you can even desire or ask for, anything that you're longing for, anything that you're hoping for, anything that you're wishing for. It says nothing compares to wisdom from God. Wisdom, it's better. And then it goes on to say, let the days are in her right hand, wisdom's right hand, and riches and honor in her left hand. And what I love about that line, all lines, but especially that line, he's not just talking about something that he heard, he's talking about out of experience. In 1 Kings 3, when Solomon was sleeping, God dropped in his dream and said, what do you want from me? Ask me something, I'll give it to you. Solomon said, you know what, I know I'm supposed to be king, but I don't know how to do this. He said, I'm just a child. He said, I don't know how to do what you're calling me to do. But I do know this. I watched my dad, David. He walked in your commandments. He did the things you asked him to. He walked in your ways. He had your wisdom. So whatever you gave him, God gave it to me as well. And Solomon, he knew what to do. He knew when to do it. He knew where to do it. He knew who to do it with. But Solomon wasn't so sure on how to do what God had called him to do. So he said, God, give me an understanding heart to be able to judge over these people fairly. He said, God, give me discernment from good to bad. God, give me your wisdom. God said, you know what? I'm pleased with you. You didn't ask for riches. You didn't ask for long life. You didn't even ask for the death of your enemies. What you asked for was wisdom. And God said, because you asked for wisdom, I'll give you riches. I'll give you honor. And remember in Psalms 91, when I promised your dad David with long life will I satisfy him? God said, if you walk in my commandments like your father David walked in my commandments, I will lengthen your days as well. Continue on in Proverbs 13, verse 18. I love these. I love these right here. It says, her ways are ways of pleasantness, and her paths, their peace. She is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her, and happy is everyone that retaineth her. Wisdom from God. It would have been simple enough to say God is all knowing and God is all loving. That's why we should get wisdom. But it goes more in depth and said we can avoid destruction. We can avoid desolation. We can avoid anguish. We can avoid fear. We can avoid calamity. We can gain happiness. We can gain blessings. We can gain long life if we just get wisdom from God. Back to 1 Kings, verse 3. I thought Solomon openly said, God, I don't know how to do this. I need you to tell me. If we can get to a point in life where we say, God, I don't know how to do this, but I know you know. So if you can just give me wisdom to know what to do, God, I do it. If we can just get wisdom from God, so many benefits if we can just get wisdom from God.